The Galactic Council had studied thousands of species. They had documented every ritual: birth, coming of age, marriage, death. Every species had rituals. They were logical, predictable, efficient. The Council understood them. They had files on everything. But human rituals were different. Confusing, chaotic, emotional. The Council's computers could not make sense of them. The scientists could not categorize them. The reports were full of question marks. So the Council sent a team of observers to Earth. Their mission was simple: watch, record, report. Do not interfere. The team was small. 4 beings, each from a different species, each with a different perspective. The Kryther warrior was named Torin. He was strong. He had fought in many battles. He believed in order and discipline. He expected human rituals to be inefficient. He was ready to be bored. The Xylos scientist was named Dr. Sari. She was smart. She had studied thousands of rituals. She believed in logic and reason. She expected human rituals to be primitive. She was ready to be unimpressed. The Vel elder was named Vorn. He was old. He had seen millions of years of rituals. He believed in patience and observation. He expected human rituals to be repetitive. He was ready to be indifferent. The Ority diplomat was named Lyra. She was adaptable. She had mediated many conflicts. She believed in understanding and compromise. She expected human rituals to be strange. She was ready to be confused. They landed on Earth. A small town. Green hills. Quiet streets. They were met by a human. Her name was Maya. She was young. Her eyes were bright. Her voice was calm. She was their guide. "You are here to study our rituals," she said. "We are honored. We will show you everything. Please ask questions. Please participate if you wish. Please feel free to cry or laugh. That is allowed." The observers were confused. Cry or laugh? That was not in their instructions. They were supposed to observe, not participate, not feel. "We are here to watch," Torin said. "Not to participate, not to feel." Maya smiled. "You will feel anyway. Humans are contagious. Our rituals are not just things we do. They are things we feel. You cannot watch a human wedding without feeling love. You cannot watch a human funeral without feeling grief. You cannot watch a human birthday without feeling joy. You will feel. It is inevitable." The observers did not believe her. They were professionals. They had observed thousands of rituals. They had never felt anything. They were immune. They were objective. They were ready. They were wrong. The first ritual was a wedding. 2 humans promised to love each other forever. The observers expected a contract, a transaction, a practical arrangement. That was what weddings were for other species. A way to formalize partnership, a way to ensure survival, a way to manage resources. But human weddings were different. There were flowers. There was music. There were tears. There was laughter. The humans did not talk about resources or survival. They talked about love, about choice, about forever. Torin was confused. "Why would anyone promise forever?" he asked. "Forever is not logical. Forever is not efficient. Forever is not strategic." The human bride was named Elena. She was old. Her hair was white. Her hands were rough. She was marrying her childhood sweetheart. They had been apart for 50 years. War had separated them. Life had separated them. But they had found each other again. "Forever is not logical," she said. "That is why it is beautiful. We do not promise forever because it makes sense. We promise forever because we choose to. Because we want to. Because we love each other. Love is not logical. Love is not efficient. Love is not strategic. Love is love. And love is enough." Torin did not understand. But he felt something. Something strange. Something warm. Something he had not felt in centuries. The couple exchanged rings. They kissed. The guests cheered. They cried. They laughed. They held each other. Dr. Sari watched. She tried to analyze, to categorize, to understand. But her categories did not fit. Her logic did not apply. Her analysis failed. "This is not a contract," she said. "This is not a transaction. This is something else." Lyra nodded. "It is a celebration of love, a celebration of choice, a celebration of 2 people who decided not to be alone." Vorn was silent. He had seen millions of weddings. He had never seen anything like this. He had never seen such joy, such hope, such love. The wedding ended. The sun set. The guests danced. The observers watched. They did not speak. They did not take notes. They just watched. They just felt. Torin felt something in his chest. Something he had not felt in centuries. He had spent his life fighting, conquering, destroying. He had never felt joy like this. He had never seen love like this. He had never known that such things existed. I think I understand, he said. Humans do not just perform rituals. They live them. Their rituals are not about efficiency or logic or strategy. They are about connection, about love, about being human. The others nodded. They did not fully understand, but they were beginning to. The humans had something the rest of the galaxy did not. They had rituals that were not just things they did. They were things they felt, things they lived, things they became. The observers returned to their quarters. They did not sleep. She had waited 50 years for her love. She had never given up. She had never stopped hoping. She had never stopped loving. Why? Torin asked. Why wait 50 years? Why not move on? Why not find someone else? Why not be practical? Dr. Sari had no answer. Vorn had no answer. Lyra had no answer. They did not understand. But they wanted to. They wanted to know what it felt like to love someone so much that you would wait 50 years. They wanted to know what it felt like to be human. The first ritual was over. The observers were changed. They did not know it yet. But they were different. They were softer, more open, more curious, more human. And there were more rituals to come. A funeral, a birthday, a holiday. Each one would change them more. Each one would teach them something new. Each one would make them more human. They had come to observe. They would leave transformed. They had expected to be bored. They were wrong. They had expected to be confused. Because they chose to. Because they wanted to. Because they were becoming human. Not in body. In heart. And that was the first lesson. It would not be the last. The first ritual was a wedding. The observers had been on Earth for only a few days. They had seen the village, the gardens, the people. They had been offered tea and bread. They had been asked about their families. They were already confused. But the wedding would break them. The wedding took place in a small garden. Flowers everywhere. White roses, red roses, yellow daisies. The sun was warm. The sky was blue. A gentle breeze carried the smell of blossoms. The observers stood at the back. They did not know what to expect. The Kryther warrior, Torin, expected a contract. A transaction. A practical arrangement. That was how weddings worked on his world. Two families came together. Resources were pooled. Alliances were formed. Love was not part of the equation. Love was inefficient. Love was illogical. Love was for poetry, not for marriage. The Xylos scientist, Dr. Sari, expected a legal ceremony. A formal agreement. A set of rules. That was how weddings worked on her world. Two individuals signed a document. Rights and responsibilities were defined. Disputes were mediated. Emotions were not part of the process. Emotions clouded judgment. Emotions led to mistakes. Emotions were for art, not for law. The Vel elder, Vorn, expected a ritual. A tradition. A repetition of the past. That was how weddings worked on his world. Two individuals followed ancient customs. They said the same words. They performed the same actions. They honored their ancestors. Innovation was not part of the ceremony. Innovation disrupted order. Innovation led to chaos. Innovation was for the young, not for the old. The Ordi diplomat, Lyra, expected a negotiation. A compromise. A meeting of needs. That was how weddings worked on her world. Two individuals discussed their futures. They balanced their desires. They found common ground. Romance was not part of the equation. Romance was unpredictable. Romance was unstable. Romance was for stories, not for real life. The wedding began. Music played. Soft. Sweet. A melody the observers had never heard. It made them feel strange. Warm. Sad. Hopeful. They did not know why. The groom entered first. He was young. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. He was not a warrior. Not a scientist. Not an elder. Not a diplomat. He was a farmer. He grew food. He fed people. He was nervous. The bride entered next. She was old. Her hair was white. Her hands were rough. She was not beautiful by galactic standards. But when she smiled, the garden grew brighter. When she walked, the flowers seemed to bow. She reached the groom. He took her hands. They looked at each other. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their eyes said everything. The officiant spoke. We are gathered here today to celebrate love. Not the love of convenience. Not the love of obligation. Not the love of transaction. The love of choice. The love of two people who have decided to be together. Not because they have to. Because they want to. Torin was confused. Why would anyone promise forever? He whispered. Forever is not logical. Forever is not efficient. Forever is not strategic. The officiant continued. Do you promise to love each other? To honor each other? To support each other? In good times and in bad? In sickness and in health? In joy and in sorrow? For as long as you both shall live. The groom spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried. I do. The bride spoke. Her voice was old, but it was strong. I do. They exchanged rings. Simple bands of gold. No gems. No inscriptions. Just circles. Endless. Eternal. Like their promise. The officiant smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you partners. You may kiss. The groom kissed the bride. The bride kissed the groom. The guests cheered. They cried. They laughed. They threw flowers. The observers stood frozen. They did not know what to do. Torin felt something in his chest. Something he had not felt in centuries. He had spent his life fighting, conquering, destroying. He had never felt joy like this. He had never seen love like this. He had never known that such things existed. Why, he asked. Why would anyone promise forever? Forever is not logical. Forever is not efficient. Forever is not strategic. The bride heard him. She walked over. She was old. Her hair was white. Her hands were rough. But her eyes were bright. Love is not logical, she said. That is why it is beautiful. We do not promise forever because it makes sense. We promise forever because we choose to. Love is not strategic. Love is love. And love is enough. Torin did not understand. But he felt something. Something he had not felt before. Something he could not name. Later, he would learn the word. The word was hope. Dr. Sari watched the couple dance. Their first dance as partners. They moved slowly. They held each other tightly. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their bodies said everything. I have studied thousands of rituals, Dr. Sari said. I have never seen anything like this. There is no logic here. No efficiency. No strategy. Just love. Lyra nodded. That is the point. Love is not about logic or efficiency or strategy. Love is about connection. About choosing someone. About staying with them. Not because you have to. Because you want to. Vorn was silent. He had lived for millions of years. He had seen millions of weddings. He had never seen anything like this. He had never seen such joy. Such hope. Such love. He had never understood why humans valued love so much. He was beginning to understand. They are not promising forever because they think it will be easy, Vorn said. They are promising forever because they know it will be hard. They are promising to try. That is what love is. Not a feeling. A choice. A choice to try. Every day. Forever. The wedding lasted for hours. The guests ate and drank and danced and laughed. The observers stayed. They did not take notes. They did not analyze. They just watched. They just felt. Torin cried. He had not cried in centuries. The tears felt strange on his face. But they also felt good. Like rain after a drought. Like spring after winter. Like hope after despair. I want to feel that, he said. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel hope. I have spent my whole life fighting. I have forgotten how to feel. I want to learn. I want to be human. The others nodded. They felt the same. They had come to observe. They were leaving changed. They had expected to be bored. Because they were becoming human. Not in body. In heart. And that was the second ritual. It would not be the last. The second ritual was a funeral. The observers had not recovered from the wedding. They still thought about the flowers. The music. The tears. The love. They thought about Elena, the old bride who had waited 50 years for her partner. They thought about the promise of forever. They thought about hope. Now they were at a funeral. A human had died. His name was Kale. He was old. His hair was white. His hands were rough. He had been a farmer. He had grown food. He had fed people. He had been kind. The observers expected efficiency. Quick disposal. Moving on. That was how other species handled death. The body was a shell. The spirit was gone. There was no point in lingering. No point in grieving. No point in remembering. Death was death. Life was life. You moved on. The humans did something else. They gathered in a small building. A church. White walls. wooden pews, stained glass windows. The sun shone through the colored glass, painting the floor with red and blue and gold. The observers sat in the back. They did not know what to expect. The Kryther warrior, Torin, expected silence. Efficiency. Moving on. That was how his people handled death. They cremated the body. They scattered the ashes. They did not speak of the dead again. The dead were dead. The living were living. Dwelling on the past was weakness. The Xylos scientist, Dr. Sari, expected analysis. Documentation. Filing. That was how our people handled death. They recorded the cause. They noted the age. They added the data to their archives. The dead became statistics. Numbers in a database. Nothing more. The Vel elder, Vorn, expected ritual. Tradition. Repetition. That was how his people handled death. They performed the same ceremonies they had performed for millions of years. They said the same words. They sang the same songs. They did not grieve. They did not mourn. They just repeated. The Ority diplomat, Lyra, expected adaptation. Change. Moving forward. That was how our people handled death. They accepted the loss. They adapted to the absence. They found new ways to live. They did not look back. They looked ahead. The funeral began. A human stood at the front. She was young. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. She was Kale's granddaughter. Her name was Maya. "We are here to remember," she said. "To remember Kale. To remember his life. His love. His kindness. To remember the way he laughed. The way he worked. The way he cared. To remember the sound of his voice. The touch of his hands. The warmth of his heart." She paused. She wiped her eyes. She took a breath. "We are here to grieve. To cry. To let out the pain. Because we loved him. Because he mattered. Because his absence is a wound that will take time to heal. Grief is not weakness. Grief is love with nowhere to go. We grieve because we loved. And love is never wasted." Torin was confused. "Why do you cry?" he whispered. "The person is gone. Crying will not bring them back. Crying will not help. Crying is inefficient." Dr. Sari did not answer. She was watching Maya. She felt something strange. Something heavy. Something sad. Something she could not name. Maya invited others to speak. An old woman stood. Her name was Elena, the same grandmother who had offered bread to the Kryther, tea to the Xylos, songs to the Vel. She had known Kale for 70 years. "He was my best friend," Elena said. "We grew up together. We played in these fields. We swam in this river. We fell in love with the same girl. He won. I forgave him. We stayed friends. For 70 years. He was kind. He was patient. He was generous. He taught me how to bake bread. He taught me how to be kind. He taught me how to love." She paused. She wiped her eyes. She smiled. "I will miss him. Every day. For the rest of my life. But I am grateful. Grateful for the time we had. Grateful for the memories. Grateful for the love. He is gone. But he is not forgotten. He lives in me. In my heart. In my memories. In the bread I bake. He lives." The observers were silent. They had never heard anything like this. They had never seen grief expressed so openly. So honestly. So beautifully. Others spoke. Kale's son. His daughter. His neighbors. His friends. They told stories. They laughed. They cried. They remembered. The hours passed. The sun moved across the stained glass windows. The colors shifted. Red to blue to gold. The Xylos scientist, Dr. Sari, tried to understand. She raised her hand. Maya nodded at her. "Why do you cry?" Dr. Sari asked. "The person is gone. Crying will not bring them back. Crying will not help. Crying is not logical." Maya looked at her. Her eyes were red. But they were not empty. They were full. Full of love. Full of grief. Full of memory. "We cry because we loved them," she said. "Grief is love with nowhere to go. We cry because we are human. Because we feel. Because we remember. Because we cannot let go. Because we do not want to let go. Because love is not logical. Grief is not logical. That is why they are beautiful." Dr. Sari had no answer. She felt something in her chest. Something heavy. Something sad. Something that wanted to come out. She did not know what it was. Later, she would learn the word. The word was grief. The funeral ended. The humans walked to a field. They gathered around a hole in the ground. Kale's body was lowered into the earth. They threw flowers on top. They said goodbye. They held each other. They cried. The observers watched. They did not take notes. They did not analyze. They just watched. They just felt. Torin felt something in his chest. Something he had not felt in centuries. He had killed many beings. He had never mourned them. He had never thought about their families, their friends, their lives. He had never thought about the grief he caused. He felt ashamed. He felt sad. He felt human. I have never mourned, he said. I have killed so many. I have never cried for them. I have never remembered them. I have never honored them. I was wrong. I want to learn. I want to grieve. I want to be human. The others nodded. They felt the same. They had come to observe. They were leaving changed. They had expected efficiency. They were wrong. They had expected to file a routine report. They were wrong. They had experienced something they had never experienced before. Something the galaxy had never experienced before. Something human. Grief. Love. Memory. And it had broken them. Not in a bad way. In a human way. They were not the same. They were better. They were becoming human. Not in body. In heart. And that was the third ritual. It would not be the last. The third ritual was a birthday. The observers had not recovered from the funeral. They still thought about Kale. About his life. His love. His death. They thought about the tears. The stories. The grief. They thought about Maya's words. Grief is love with nowhere to go. They had felt grief. They had not known they could feel it. They had not known they had love. Now they were at a birthday. A smile that lit up the room. She was wearing a paper crown. It was crooked. She did not care. The observers expected a simple celebration. A small gathering. A few gifts. A piece of cake. They expected efficiency. Moderation. Moving on. That was how other species handled birthdays. They acknowledged the passage of time. They noted the increase in age. They moved on. The humans did something else. They gathered in a small house. The living room was decorated with balloons and streamers. A banner read "Happy Birthday, Lily" in colorful letters. The observers sat on a couch. They did not know what to expect. The Kryther warrior, Torin, expected discipline. Achievement. Recognition. That was how his people handled birthdays. They celebrated accomplishments. Battles won. Enemies defeated. Promotions earned. A child's birthday was not important. Children had not achieved anything. They were not worth celebrating. The Xylos scientist, Dr. Sari, expected data. Statistics. Analysis. That was how her people handled birthdays. They recorded the date. They updated the database. They filed the information. A child's birthday was not significant. Children had not contributed to science. They were not worth recording. The Vel Elder Vorn expected ritual. Tradition. Repetition. They sang the same songs. But they did not celebrate. They did not feel joy. They just repeated. The Ority diplomat, Lyra, expected adaptation. Change. Moving forward. That was how her people handled birthdays. They accepted the new age. They adapted to the new stage of life. They did not celebrate. They did not look back. They just moved forward. The birthday began. The humans sang a song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lily. Happy birthday to you. The song was simple. The melody was old. The words were childish. But the observers felt something. Something warm. Something joyful. Something they could not name. Lily blew out the candles on her cake. There were 7 candles. 7 tiny flames. She took a deep breath. She blew. The flames flickered. They went out. The humans cheered. They clapped. They laughed. She made a wish, someone said. What did you wish for? Asked another. Lily smiled. I can't tell you. It won't come true if I tell. The observers were confused. A wish? What was a wish? Why would blowing out candles make a wish come true? This was not logical. This was not efficient. This was not strategic. The Vel Elder Vorn spoke. We have lived for millions of years, he said. We have never celebrated being alive. We have only celebrated achievements. You have taught us something. Life itself is an achievement. A human woman looked at him. Her name was Elena, the same grandmother who had offered bread to the Kryther, tea to the Xylos, songs to the Vel. She was old. Her hair was white. Her hands were rough. Her eyes were bright. Life is the only achievement that matters, she said. Every day we are alive is a gift. Every year we survive is a miracle. We celebrate birthdays not because we have done something great. We celebrate because we are alive. Because we have another year to love. To learn. To grow. To be human. Torin was confused. But you have not achieved anything. You have just existed. Existence is not an achievement. Existence is the baseline. Elena shook her head. Existence is not the baseline. Existence is the miracle. The universe is vast, cold, empty. The fact that we are here, that is the miracle. We celebrate birthdays to remind ourselves of that miracle. To remind ourselves that life is precious, that every day is a gift, that we are lucky to be here. Torin did not understand, but he felt something warm, something joyful, something he had not felt in centuries. Later, he would learn the word. The word was gratitude. Lily opened her gifts. She received a doll, a book, a pair of shoes, a handmade card from her grandmother. The card said, "To Lily, my sunshine. You make every day brighter. I love you, Grandma." Lily cried. She hugged her grandmother. She held on tight. She did not let go. "Why is she crying?" Dr. Sari asked. She received gifts. She should be happy. Crying is not logical. Elena smiled. She is crying because she is happy, because she feels loved, because she knows she is special. Tears are for gratitude. Tears are for being human. Dr. Sari felt something in her chest. Something warm. Something joyful. Something that wanted to come out. She did not know what it was. Later, she would learn the word. The word was joy. The party continued. The humans ate cake and ice cream. They played games. They laughed. They talked. The observers stayed. They did not take notes. They did not analyze. They just watched. They just felt. "We do not celebrate life," Lyra said. "We celebrate achievements. Success. Victory. We have never celebrated simply being alive. We have never celebrated a child's birthday. We have never seen a child as a miracle. We have seen them as future workers, future soldiers, future scientists. We have never seen them as gifts." Vorn nodded. "We have lived for millions of years. We have forgotten how to celebrate. We have forgotten how to be grateful. We have forgotten how to be joyful. The humans have reminded us. Life is not a problem to be solved. Life is a gift to be celebrated." The party ended. The sun set. The stars came out. The observers returned to their quarters. They did not sleep. They thought about Lily, about her smile, her laugh, her crooked crown. They thought about Elena's words. "Life is the only achievement that matters." Torin spoke. "I have spent my whole life fighting, conquering, destroying. I have never celebrated a life. I have never been grateful for existence. I have never seen a child as a miracle. I was wrong. I want to learn. I want to celebrate. I want to be grateful. I want to be human." The others nodded. They felt the same. They had come to observe. They were leaving changed. They had expected a simple celebration. They were wrong. With their hearts. They were not the same. They were better. They were becoming human. Not in body. In heart. And that was the fourth ritual. It would not be the last. The observers returned to the council. They had been gone for months. The council expected a routine report. Another species. Another set of rituals. Another file for the archives. The council was not prepared for what they saw. The Kryther warrior, Torin, was different. He had always been stoic, cold, emotionless. He had never shown weakness. He had never cried. Now he cried at meetings. A Kryther general made a speech about conquest. Torin cried. A Xylos scientist presented data on efficiency. Torin cried. The council was confused. "Why are you crying?" they asked. Torin wiped his eyes. "Because I feel," he said. "Because I am alive. Because I am grateful. Because I have learned to be human." The Xylos scientist, Dr. Sari, was different. She had always been logical, precise, analytical. She had never shown emotion. She had never asked about feelings. Now she asked about feelings. A Kryther warrior complained of exhaustion. Dr. Sari asked, "How do you feel?" A Vel elder spoke of loss. Dr. Sari asked, "Are you okay?" The council was confused. "Why are you asking about feelings?" they asked. Dr. Sari smiled. "Because feelings matter. Because logic is not enough. Because I have learned to be human." The Vel elder, Vorn, was different. He had always been patient, reserved, detached. He had never celebrated. He had never shown joy. Now he celebrated birthdays. He brought cake to council meetings. He sang songs. The council was confused. "Why are you celebrating?" they asked. Vorn smiled. "Because life is a gift. Because every day is a miracle. Because I have learned to be human." The Ority diplomat, Lyra, was different. She had always been adaptable. Neutral. Unemotional. She had never written poetry. She had never expressed her heart. Now she wrote poetry. She recited it at council meetings. The words were clumsy. The rhymes were forced. But they were sincere. The council was confused. "Why are you writing poetry?" they asked. Lyra smiled. "Because art matters. Because beauty matters. Because love matters. Because I have learned to be human." The council demanded an explanation. "What happened to you on Earth?" they asked. Torrin spoke first. "We watched a wedding. Two humans promised to love each other forever. Not because it was logical. Because they chose to. Because they wanted to. Because they loved each other. I had never seen love like that. I had never felt love like that. I did not know that such things existed. Now I do. Now I feel. Now I love." Dr. Sari spoke next. "We watched a funeral. A human had died. They gathered to remember him. They told stories. They laughed. They cried. They grieved. I asked why they cried. They said, 'Grief is love with nowhere to go.' I had never thought of grief that way. I had never allowed myself to grieve. Now I do. Now I cry. Now I remember." Vorn spoke next. "We watched a birthday. A human child turned 7. They celebrated not because she had achieved something great. They celebrated because she was alive. I had lived for millions of years. I had never celebrated being alive. I had only celebrated achievements. Now I celebrate life. Now I celebrate every day. Now I am grateful." Lyra spoke last. "We watched humans. They taught us to feel, to love, to grieve, to celebrate. They taught us that logic is not enough. That efficiency is not enough. That strategy is not enough. That we need more. We need connection. We need community. We need love. We need to be human. Not in body. In heart." The council was silent. They did not understand. But they could not argue with the evidence. The observers were different. They were happier. Kinder. More alive. They were not the same. They were better. The final scene takes place in a small room. The observers are sitting together. There is a cake on the table. It has candles. 7 candles. Like Lily's birthday. "Why 7?" someone asks. Torrin smiles. "Because 7 is the age of wonder. The age of curiosity. The age of joy. We are learning to be like children. To see the world with fresh eyes. To celebrate being alive." They sing a song. "Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear observers. Happy birthday to us." Their voices are not beautiful. They are off-key. They are out of rhythm. But they are sincere. They are joyful. They are human. They blow out the candles. They make wishes. They do not tell what they wished for. They eat cake. They laugh. They cry. They hold each other. They are not human. They are Kryther and Xylos and Vel and Ority. But they are becoming human. Not in body. In heart. And that, they have learned, is the most important ritual of all. Not the rituals of conquest or logic or patience or adaptation. The rituals of love. Of grief. Of joy. Of gratitude. Of being alive. Of being human. The council never fully understood. They continued to file reports. To analyze data. To make plans. But something had changed. Something small. Something fragile. Something hopeful. The observers had brought back more than a report. They had brought back a seed. A seed of kindness. A seed of love. A seed of humanity. And the seed began to grow. Slowly. Quietly. In the hearts of the council members. In the hearts of the galaxy. Not because they were forced. Because they chose to. Because they wanted to. Because they had seen the observers. Because they had seen joy. Because they had seen love. Because they had seen grief. Because they had seen celebration. Because they had seen humans. And they wanted to be human too. Not in body. In heart. And that was the 5th ritual. It was not the last. It was the beginning. The beginning of a new galaxy. A galaxy of cake and song and tears and love. A galaxy of humans. Not in body. In heart. And that was enough. That was everything. That was the end. And the beginning. The beginning of the human way. The only way that works. The only way that saves. The only way that loves. And that was enough. That was everything. That was human.